Assuming that Paul Atkins gets confirmed as the next SEC chair, I think it's pretty clear we're going to see a significant departure in the philosophy of SEC leadership versus his predecessor. And I think we're going to see that in terms of how the SEC operates and where they choose to spend their time. For example, Gensler, his predecessor, huge on really having an aggressive enforcement arm at the SEC. And so we saw a lot of what was termed regulatory action through enforcement during his time there. In fact, in 2024, we saw $8.2 billion in sanctions being issued. That is actually a new record. And many of those sanctions were actually against our industry, registered investment advisors and broker-dealers, and not surprisingly, areas of focus for Gensler, things like off-channel communications, digital currencies, emerging technologies, cybersecurity, to name a few. And so I think we're likely to see that change a little bit under Adkins. Now, what I would say is it doesn't mean that enforcement's going away, but I think we're going to start seeing the prioritization of enforcement on areas where there's really demonstrated harm to investors. So think fraud, scams, those types of actions. I also think it's probably likely that we see a renewed focus on the SEC's examination program. So, when Paul Atkins was previously a commissioner, he was a longtime supporter over the examination program, believing that it's a really important interaction between the commission and understanding what our industry is doing, but also for the commission to really do their part in helping to improve compliance across firms. And so I think if that's the direction that Adkins and the SEC goes, I think it's likely, and I certainly would not be surprised if we actually see more and more advisors getting examined in the coming years. I, for one, continue to believe that technology is just extremely critical in trying to operate and maintain an effective compliance program. If we see under the new direction of the SEC a renewed focus on the examination program, I think technology is going to be the way in which you prepare for that examination, but also how you hopefully successfully navigate the conclusion of that examination. I think if you are a firm that is still stuck in spreadsheets and manual time-consuming processes, I think you're going to have a really hard time convincing your examiner that the strength of your compliance program is as robust as it could be. I will say, though, that there's good news in that this is definitely an area in which Orion has invested a lot in trying to help compliance officers with these challenges. And so as of right now, we actually have more and more, in fact, a record number of users and compliance teams using our compliance tech platform than ever before. And why that is so great is because we've been able to foster so many relationships with compliance teams where we see a lot of themes. We see a lot of the same challenges, a lot of the same pain points that are emerging in their day-to-day processes. And that's led to some really incredible technological innovation, including some tools that are the first of their kind. And so one example of that we're actually launching this week is the new registration level tracking feature of drift. So what is that? Well, for the first time, what this is going to allow compliance teams using the Orion system to do is to be able to go in and know automatically, whether it's at an account level, a household level, a registration level, if the risk or the portfolio tolerance associated with that client is now out of bounds and requires further attention. And so I think it's just one more example of where technology is really key to compliance, but also where you can feel more confident knowing that you're improving your compliance program at scale by leveraging technology effectively.